Welcome to Presidential Papers. Have you ever wondered how pivotal decisions by America's presidents have shaped the economy we see today? One of the most debated policies in recent memory is the employer mandate. Introduced by the Affordable Care Act (ACA), widely known as Obamacare. Designed to increase access to health care, the employer mandate required businesses with 50 or more full-time employees to provide health insurance or face financial penalties. While its intent was noble, its actual impact on small businesses and the job market has sparked widespread controversy. Small businesses, which form the backbone of the U.S. economy, often operate on thin profit margins. For many, the employer mandate introduced significant financial pressures, forcing them to either provide costly health insurance or pay penalties. To mitigate these costs, some employers turned to cost-cutting measures such as reducing employee wages, shifting full-time positions to part-time roles, or capping their workforce below the 50-employee threshold. These actions had unintended consequences, particularly for low-wage workers, who often rely on steady, full-time employment to make ends meet. The ripple effects extended into the broader job market as well. Research and economic analyses reveal a noticeable uptick in part-time employment following the implementation of the employer mandate. Industries such as retail and hospitality, which rely heavily on low-wage labor, saw particularly pronounced shifts. This trend not only limited job growth but also hindered access to stable employment opportunities, exacerbating economic inequality in some regions. In this article, we will explore two key reasons why the employer mandate under the ACA negatively affected small businesses and the job market. First, we will analyze how wage reductions emerged as a strategy to offset costs. Second, we will examine how changes in employment patterns reshaped the labor market. Drawing on academic studies and expert insights, we aim to shed light on the broader economic impact of this policy. The employer mandate under the Affordable Care Act (ACA), commonly known as Obamacare, has been a contentious policy measure since its inception. While some argue that it expands access to healthcare, one critical aspect warrants examination: its impact on small businesses and the job market. The first of two supporting reasons for this argument focuses on how the ACA's employer mandate negatively affected small business wages and employment. By delving into academic research and addressing counter-arguments, this section aims to provide a comprehensive analysis of this claim. The ACA's employer mandate requires businesses with 50 or more full-time employees to provide health insurance to their employees or face financial penalties. While well-intentioned, this regulation imposed significant financial burdens on small businesses. According to research published by the American Action Forum (AAF) in 2014, ACA regulations led to a reduction in small business pay by at least $22.6 billion annually. This finding underscores the extent to which the employer mandate constrained wage growth within businesses. Employing 20 to 99 workers. Ryan and Batkins, 2014. Employees working full-time for businesses with 50 to 99 employees experienced an average annual wage loss of $935, while those employed by businesses with 20 to 49 employees lost $827.50 on average. Ryan and Batkins, 2014. These figures illustrate the tangible financial impact on workers, particularly in smaller enterprises already operating with tight profit margins. The reduction in wages is closely linked to rising health insurance premiums, which increased significantly after the ACA's implementation. Before the ACA, academic literature indicated no significant relationship between healthcare premiums and employment or wages. However, since 2010, small businesses have faced mounting pressures from higher premiums, leading to a dual effect of wage reductions and job losses. Ryan and Batkins, 2014. Research published in 2017 reinforced these findings, revealing that small business employees lost at least $19 billion in wages annually due to the ACA's regulations. Batkins, 2017. Moreover, this wage suppression varied by state, with workers in states like Ohio, New York, and North Dakota experiencing annual wage losses of $2,095, $2,134, and $2,260, respectively. Batkins, 2017. Beyond wage suppression, the employer mandate also contributed to significant job losses across the country. The AAF estimated that more than 350,000 jobs were lost nationwide due to ACA regulations and rising health insurance premiums. Ryan and Batkins, 2014. These job losses were concentrated in states with higher sensitivity to premium increases, such as Florida, Ohio, Pennsylvania, and Texas. For instance, Texas alone lost 28,010 jobs, while Florida, Ohio, and Pennsylvania lost 17,950, 19,000, and 15,680 jobs, respectively. Batkins, 2017. These figures highlight the disproportionate impact on regions where small businesses are critical to local economies. Counterarguments often emphasize the ACA's benefits, particularly its expansion of healthcare coverage and protection for individuals with pre-existing conditions. Critics of the wage and employment impact analysis argue that the ACA's overall economic benefits outweigh its costs. For instance, some proponents point to the long-term advantages of a healthier workforce, which could theoretically enhance productivity and reduce absenteeism. Additionally, supporters argue that the employer mandate incentivizes businesses to invest in their employees' well-being, fostering a more loyal and engaged workforce. However, these counterarguments fail to address the immediate and measurable financial strain on small businesses. A key rebuttal comes from the empirical evidence provided by the AAF, which demonstrates that the employer mandate's costs far outweighed its perceived benefits for small enterprises. Moreover, the argument that a healthier workforce offsets these costs assumes that small businesses can absorb short-term financial pressures, which is not the case for many small employers operating on narrow margins. Social media reactions and public opinion often mirror these debates. For example, a recent discussion on Reddit's Small Business Forum revealed widespread frustration among small business owners. One user commented, "We had to cut back hours and delay raises just to afford the rising premiums. The ACA's penalties feel like a punishment for trying to stay afloat." This sentiment reflects a broader concern that the ACA's regulations disproportionately affect businesses with limited resources. While anecdotal, such reactions align with the findings of academic research, further reinforcing the claim that the employer mandate has had adverse effects on small businesses. Critics of this perspective often cite reports suggesting that the overall job market remained stable or even grew during the ACA's implementation. For instance, the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics (BLS) reported consistent job growth in the years following the ACA's enactment. However, this macro-level analysis masks the uneven impact on small businesses, which are more vulnerable to regulatory changes. The AAF's research specifically isolates the effects on small enterprises, revealing a contrasting narrative that large-scale statistics fail to capture. This part's conclusion is clear: the ACA's employer mandate had a demonstrable negative impact on small business wages and employment. By increasing health insurance premiums and imposing financial penalties, the mandate created significant challenges for small enterprises, leading to wage suppression and job losses. These effects were particularly pronounced in states with heightened sensitivity to premium increases. While the ACA's broader goals of expanding healthcare access are laudable, its employer mandate imposed unintended economic consequences on the small business sector. Subsequent sections will explore additional dimensions of this impact, further elucidating the complex relationship between healthcare policy and the job market. The second reason supporting the claim that the Affordable Care Act's ACA employer mandate negatively impacted small businesses and the job market revolves around the surge in part-time employment and its implications for the workforce. This section will explore evidence from scholarly research, refute common counterarguments, and conclude by emphasizing the magnitude of these effects on both businesses and employees. The employer mandate of the ACA, implemented in 2015, requires businesses with 50 or more full-time equivalent employees, FTEs, to provide affordable health insurance to employees working 30 or more hours per week. Non-compliance results in significant financial penalties. This policy unintentionally incentivized employers to reduce employee hours below the 30-hour threshold, thereby increasing part-time employment. As detailed in the study by Dillander, Heinrich, and Hausman 2020. The ACA contributed to a rise in involuntary part-time employment by approximately 500,000 to 700,000 workers, primarily in industries such as retail, accommodations, and food services. These sectors are characterized by lower profit margins and high sensitivity to labor costs, making them more likely to adjust employee schedules to mitigate the financial impact of the mandate. The shift toward part-time employment had significant consequences for workers and businesses. For employees, reduced hours meant diminished income, fewer benefits, and decreased job stability. Workers who were accustomed to full-time roles found themselves cobbling together multiple part-time jobs to make ends meet, often without access to employer-sponsored health insurance or other benefits. This phenomenon disproportionately affected low-wage workers, exacerbating economic inequality. From a business perspective, the mandate led to operational challenges. Employers needed to manage a more fragmented workforce, which increased administrative complexity and decreased overall productivity. Moreover, these adjustments often came at the expense of employee morale and loyalty. Research by Dillander et al. 2020 underscores that such disruptions had ripple effects on organizational efficiency and competitiveness. Critics of this argument contend that the ACA's mandate primarily aimed to expand health insurance coverage, and any negative consequences on employment were minimal or short-lived. Some have argued that businesses adapted over time, and that the overall job market was not significantly impacted. For instance, proponents often cite data from the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics (BLS), which shows a steady decline in the unemployment rate in the years following the ACA's implementation. They argue that the broader economic recovery overshadowed any localized employment effects caused by the mandate. However, these counterarguments fail to address the nuanced realities faced by specific industries and demographic groups. While the national unemployment rate may have improved, the rise in involuntary part-time employment cannot be overlooked. The study by Dillander et al. 2020 provides robust evidence that the ACA's mandate specifically influenced employers' decisions to cut hours, leading to a structural shift in the labor market. Furthermore, Mulligan's 2018 analysis highlights that these changes were not confined to individual firms, but reflected a broader trend of regulatory avoidance. Social media and public discourse often echo the sentiment that the ACA's employer mandate was a necessary trade-off for expanding health insurance coverage. For example, some commentators argue on platforms like Twitter and Reddit that providing access to healthcare is worth any minor inconvenience to businesses. However, this perspective overlooks the fact that the mandate's unintended consequences disproportionately burdened vulnerable workers. The Mercatus-Mulligan Survey 2018 found that businesses with 4,049 employees were particularly likely to reduce hours or delay hiring to avoid crossing the 50-employee threshold. This strategic behavior undermined the policy's goal of improving access to healthcare, as many part-time workers still lacked adequate coverage despite being employed. Another point of contention is the claim that part-time employment is inherently flexible and beneficial for certain workers, such as students or parents seeking work-life balance. While this is true for some, the involuntary nature of these shifts where workers were forced into part-time roles against their preferences renders the argument invalid. The data from Dillander et al. 2020 explicitly indicates that the increase in part-time employment was driven by employers' attempts to circumvent the ACA's penalties, not by workers' choices. This part's conclusion is as follows. The ACA's employer mandate significantly contributed to the rise in involuntary part-time employment, disproportionately affecting low-wage workers and industries sensitive to labor costs. While proponents argue that the mandate's benefits outweighed its drawbacks, empirical evidence from studies such as those by Dillander et al. 2020 and Mulligan 2018 demonstrates that the policy's unintended consequences undermined its intended objectives by incentivizing employers to reduce hours and shift toward part-time staffing models. The mandate disrupted the labor market and exacerbated economic disparities. In summary, the increase in part-time employment caused by the ACA's employer mandate represents a critical example of how well-intentioned policies can yield unintended negative outcomes. The next section will further explore the broader implications of these labor market distortions on economic productivity and social equity. The employer mandate of the Affordable Care Act (ACA), commonly known as Obamacare, introduced significant changes to the healthcare and employment landscapes in the United States. This mandate required businesses with 50 or more full-time employees to provide health insurance or face penalties. While aimed at expanding healthcare access, the policy has sparked debates over its economic impact, particularly on small businesses and the job market. The mandate created financial pressures for many small businesses, leading to a decline in wages and employee benefits. Small enterprises, already operating on thin margins, faced increased costs to comply with the ACA's insurance requirements. Studies suggest that businesses responded by cutting back on wage increases or reducing other forms of compensation to offset these expenses, particularly in states with higher insurance premiums. The financial strain on small businesses became more pronounced, disproportionately affecting low-wage employees who were most vulnerable to such cost adjustments. The employer mandate also influenced employment patterns, reshaping the job market in several ways. One notable impact was the rise in part-time employment. To avoid reaching the threshold of 50 full-time employees and incurring penalties, many businesses deliberately capped work hours or shifted full-time roles to part-time positions. This trend was especially evident in industries reliant on low-skilled labor, such as retail and hospitality. Such measures may have restricted workers' earning potential and job stability, further exacerbating economic insecurity for those at the lower end of the income spectrum. In conclusion, the employer mandate under the ACA had notable adverse effects on small businesses and the job market. By increasing operational costs, it incentivized businesses to limit employee hours, reduce wage growth, and restructure workforce patterns. These outcomes were particularly pronounced in regions where insurance costs were higher, disproportionately affecting vulnerable workers. While the ACA succeeded in expanding healthcare access, its employer mandate highlighted the delicate balance between policy objectives and economic realities. Thank you for watching until the end. If you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to hit like and subscribe to the channel. We'd love to hear your thoughts and feedback, so feel free to share them in the comments section. Let's continue exploring American history together through papers in the next episode.